All right, so we're gonna hop into it. In your opinion, Coach, what's the difference between a D1 player and a JUCO player?
Well, I mean, really probably from a talent standpoint, not very much. I mean, I think there's some very that's not a think. I know there's very talented guys that are playing junior college basketball. I think it's for probably one of two reasons. One being a difference would be just that for whatever reason that junior college player that ended up going JUCO instead of Division I just didn't stand out, didn't get presented the opportunity. And a lot of times, kind of that may look like, he may have not, had the grades coming out of high school, or, that's kind of not so common nowadays because a lot of people are, the standards to get into, NCAA schools have lowered just a little bit. So, and typically people are more aware of like what it takes to get into four-year schools. So I think, either like grades, or there was like maybe one little flaw. Maybe they're, they didn't play at certain schools, even though I think that's kind of sometimes a cop out because, I think, you can get noticed wherever you are. But really it boils down to they just, for whatever reason, weren't presented the opportunity that some of those guys in Division I were, because there's guys that are beyond talented enough to play in Division I, even as freshman qualifiers that come JUCO. It's just for whatever reason they just didn't get the chance.
Got you. So, and what are you looking for because you do actively recruit at your
Yeah,
level?
yeah,
Okay, so what are you looking for, and how do you find the talent that you're looking for to get to top 10 in the country?
yeah. So I mean, I think it all starts with just like character. We talk about like the price of admission into our program is character. Gets guys into our program, whether you're athlete, whether you're a staff member. You've got to be a man of character, a young man of character. And what does that look like? It looks like that you understand, that this thing's not about you. And that's tough. And that's really tough in junior college because a lot of guys are coming to use junior college, to get to that next level. And we want that to be the case. But in order we say to squeeze the most out of, junior college, you've got to show that you're about winning and you're about doing things the team's way. I love the old Greg Popovich quote about like, we look for guys who've gotten over themselves. And so we're the same way. Like you got to be, have humility, and you've got to be a great teammate. Well, what does that, look like playing basketball? Well, you're a guy that makes the extra pass. Like you pass up good shots for great shots. You communicate on defense. You are a great teammate, and you're an encourager. When things aren't going well for you, it's not like you shut down. You're more trying to pour into somebody else. And we want guys like that. We want guys that understand like this is a team sport. This is not tennis or golf to where you go and you play as an individual. Because at the end of the day, one of the benefits that I have, in coming back to junior college. I was a junior college coach 7 years ago, and then came back. Had stints at Ole Miss, McNeese State, and Vanderbilt, and really at the end of the day, like Division I schools, when we were there recruiting guys, when I was there, like you want to see guys that have impact on winning. Well, how do you have impact on winning? Well, first off, you got to be about winning and doing the things that it takes to win. And so I think that all starts with just being a guy that understands that this thing's not about you, man. It's about the team winning. It's not about you scoring points or you getting rebounds or, all those things add up to winning, but when it's done the right way. And so I think, we're looking for guys of character. And then, I think, we have kind of our 4 C's that we say. We say, obviously the first thing is you got to be a man of character to get into the program. Second thing is you got to care about what you do. What does that mean? Like if you care about something, you spend time doing it. And so like your work ethic, that's where we find like, you're going to work at it. You're going to really, it's not just going to be a 3 to 5:30, 3 to 6, thing, because everybody in the country practices, but what are you doing extra that's going to separate you from being ordinary to extraordinary? And the difference is the extra. And so are you going to be, putting in the work? And then are you going to care about, the people you're doing it with? Are you going to be a brother to your teammates? And
Right.
So that's our second C. And then our third C is that we're going to communicate. We're going to communicate at a high level. You can always hear a great team. And so we want guys that when we go watch them play, that they're talking and they exhibit enthusiasm. We call it juice. And you can hear them, and you can hear them on the bench. You can hear them in a game. And also that you communicate with your teammates off the floor, and you grow closer to them, and you have relationships with the people that you're playing with. And then the fourth thing is competing. Guys that compete at a high level, that you can see that what they're doing means a lot to them by the level that they're competing within, whether it's a practice we're watching a recruit or a game film or in-person game. Like, are they competitive? And regardless of the situation, regardless of the adversity that they're facing in a game, or regardless of whether they're up in a game, are they still competing at the highest level? And so, those 4 C's are kind of the things that we hang our hat on as a program, but also what we're looking for, in guys coming here to Eastern Florida.
And just go over the 4 C's quickly again. You said.
So character, price of admission, care. You got to care about what you're doing. Communicate at the highest level, on and off the floor. So that's developing relationships, but also communicating, and then competing. So those are our 4 C's.
So in your eyes, what is the main difference between you coaching at Vanderbilt or you coaching at Ole Miss and you coaching at the junior college level, which you're at now?
So I think, there's a lot of misconceptions about junior college basketball. The basketball itself, what other coaches are doing. There's some really, really good coaches in junior college basketball. There's some guys that have been working on their craft, for years and that are coaching at a really high level. And we've got, a lot of former Division I coaches that are coaching in junior college. I've Jeff Reinert at CSI, Dave Rice at Salt Lake City. I mean, there's Donnie Tyndall at Chipola, Steve DeMayo at Northwest Florida. There's some, really, really, really high level coaches that are coaching in junior college, and doing an unbelievable job. So it's, the coaching certainly not a difference, and so what we're doing from a basketball standpoint at this level is you're going to see similarities in a lot of different teams, and what they're doing at the Division I level. I think really, if you could just look at like maybe the main difference, it's just the support, obviously at Ole Miss and Vanderbilt, there's so much from a nutrition standpoint, from a travel standpoint, from all that, that really allows guys, to see the benefits of all the revenue and all the things that are flowing in Division I. But, the basketball itself, like when you get down to the going out there and competing in a game, from an X's and O's, a preparation standpoint, a practice standpoint, a weightlifting, skill development standpoint, a lot of that is the same. It's just more so the support,
financial behind it
outside of basketball. That's the main difference. And so what I say to our guys is like, man, like when you get there, you'll appreciate it so much more because you didn't have it, here. So like, you won't take that stuff for granted, where I feel like a lot of guys, when they get to that level, they kind of just take all the food or all the support from a training staff or from a nutrition standpoint or all that stuff, academic support, they take that stuff for granted, where I feel like, junior college guys that have had that chip on their shoulder, that have had to do a lot of that stuff and become a little bit more self-sustaining and obviously, motivating themselves rather than having a team of 17 people motivating them.
Got you. And if you had to say what was one of the biggest myths about junior college basketball that you hear and you kind of just want to address with the audience?
Well, I think, to be honest, like one of the biggest myths is that like you should look at going junior college as like a negative thing. I think junior college is a tool that you can use that can extremely put yourself in a much better situation than like if you didn't use it. I love a quote, up in your neck of the woods, Tony Bennett, after they won the national championship, had the quote about adversity. Adversity, when it's used correctly, can buy you a ticket to somewhere you couldn't have gone any other way. And I think junior college, people look at it like, you're going to junior college. I look at junior college the same way. It's a little adversity, right? You're not going to the place where you probably thought you would go, Division I, right out of high school. And so it's a little adversity, but when it's used correctly, it's able to get you to a place that you couldn't have gone any other way. And when it's used correctly, you're going to open up doors that even like I encourage guys that may not get, like they may, have like a 4-year, NCAA offer, but they may think that they, could go to a better situation. Well, come junior college for a year, and if you handle it correctly, you're probably going to be able to get those doors open. We're seeing it with a lot of guys on our team that are freshman qualifiers that did not have a Division I scholarship offer. They just had a few, NCAA Division IIs or things. They've come here, they've worked their tail off, they've embraced, what JUCO for what it is. And multiple guys have gotten multiple Division I scholarships. It's only December. And there'll be a Division I basketball player next year because they're using junior college correctly. So, like, I think the myth is that I would say the biggest myth is like you going junior college is like going to limit you and going to keep you from going Division I, when I think it could not be, any different. I think it's you go junior college and you handle this right, you're probably going to, by a multiple of 10, have that many more opportunities than you did probably coming out of high school.
Perfect. And Corey is an example of that, right?
Sure.
Yeah, he didn't have the offers kind of coming out, but came to you and they multiplied tenfold.
Yeah, no doubt about
So if I talk about your non-negotiables, would that be the 4 C's?
I would say that. I would say first off, the character, is a non-negotiable. If you're a guy that we see that you're very selfish or you're not embracing, I think another aspect of character in our program is we talk about the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So if you're taking shortcuts like academically, if you're taking shortcuts socially, then you're probably going to end up taking shortcuts from a basketball standpoint. And so we try to stay away from guys like that. And we don't stand for that. We've been really, big and telling our guys, like, listen, if you're not taking your academics seriously when you come here, because we want you to be the best version of yourself. And being the best version of yourself is not just taking one thing in your life seriously. It's taking everything and being the best man that we possibly could be. So I think our non-negotiables are anything that's hindering you from being the best version of yourself. And that's what we're all seeking to find in life. And that's what we're trying to help our guys find is, can we find the best version of you? And if you're hurting yourself, we can't stand for that.
So you've had all academic team twice when you previously, right? At your last stint. Was that by happenstance or was that deliberate and intentional? And if so, what were the steps you kind of took
Yeah.
for that to happen?
So I mean, it's something that, I take great pride in, not just about me, but just the type of young men that we had in our program. So for 4 years that I was a head junior college coach before I went to Ole Miss, our team had a top 3 GPA out of 300 and whatever, junior college teams in the country. And 2 of those were, like you said, the highest GPA in the country. And one of those teams had the highest GPA in the country and won a state championship at the same time. So they did things with excellence on the court and off the court. And I think it just showed me, that's the standard, and guys are going to live to the standard that you set. So you set low standards, they're going to live to that standards. I think a part of it, with like all these guys that, I tell guys like, with if they're struggling academically, it's because people aren't setting high enough standards. Like our guys, like if you get the right guys, the guys that have character, they're going to compete and they're going to want to live up to the standards that are set for them. And so I think like if you get guys of character to come into a program and you say, listen, we're just getting A's and B's. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. You give them a roadmap to get there, guys are going to do that. And I think it creates confidence when they see, like, because their study habits are better, if the way they're preparing is better, then guys see that, where they may be making D's and C's, well, all of a sudden I start making A's. Well, I can be an A student. I can be a B student. I can do these things. And it opens up so many doors for their lives, because we understand that, a lot of these guys are going to go play Division I basketball, but eventually that ball is going to stop bouncing. And so we want to give them tools to be successful for life. And so we're learning things through the game of basketball. And one thing is we want to get a degree. We want every guy here to graduate, to go play at a 4-year university, get a 4-year degree. And so we stress that, our guys right now, to be honest, are in study hall studying for exams. And so, that's every morning. And that's something that we do, Monday through Friday, whether it's a holiday, whether it's not, like, if we're in school, we're studying.
So between Southwest and projected this year, with the anticipation of the guys you kind of have in the stable, how many players have you sent to the Division I, Division II level from the JUCO level?
Oh man, adding Division IIs in there is going to throw me for a loop. But
all right, so let's do Division I.
Yeah, I want to say every one of our guys at Southwest, every one of our scholarship guys got a 4-year scholarship. I'm actually about 100% positive of that. So whether it's Division I or Division II, and so every one of our guys this year will some guys are freshmen that'll come back here, as a sophomore, but everyone that's either a freshman qualifier, that's playing, or sophomores will either go Division I or Division II. So in Division I, over my 4 years at Southwest, I think it was 19 that we had. So guys that we recruited, we had we recruited a guy that went to NC State, Central Florida, Murray State, UNLV, all over the country, Middle Tennessee State, multiple guys that played in the NCAA tournament. One guy that played with Ja, he's actually who I thought was the best player on Murray State, Ja's freshman year. And he was a 6'7" forward, actually from Florida. And he, I think, set like a record. He's the first player that played in the tournament in 20-something years that made his first 7 shots, 4 of them being threes, and he was a 6'8" skilled forward. So we had some really good players. We had the success we had there from a win-loss standpoint, championship standpoint, wasn't because of me being a good coach. It was because we had some really good players. So, so we had 19 go there. And this year, we can have anywhere from 5 to 7, 8 guys go Division I off this team. This team is a really, really talented team. And so we're very blessed with a good group.
Perfect. So do you get scholarships are you able to provide scholarship for the athletes at the JUCO level?
Yeah. So, it's a full scholarship. Like, for Division I junior college, you get a full scholarship. You get housing, our housing here. I tell our guys, like, it is significantly better than even some of the places that I've been at from a Division I standpoint. Like, they have, on-campus apartments that have been built here, 2 years ago. Like, we talk about Corey Calker from up your neck of the woods. He came here, him and his dad were just amazed at how nice, when you talk about like the myths of junior college, like another myth of junior college is like some of these places, like they're just, not nice, but that could not be anything further from the truth. Like, if you look at even some of the gyms, some of the facilities, some of the living, places, like situations of these junior college, it is better than a lot of Division I's, just being honest. And so, you're able in junior college to get a full scholarship, housing, meals, stipends, all that stuff. And so it's a great situation. And a lot of our guys, just being frank, like, we've had, guys that the previous coach here named Jeremy Schulman, who did a tremendous job, who's now the head coach at Division I UT Martin, is one of my dear friends. He had guys on his team last year that could have left and gone and taken a 4-year scholarship, who opted to come back here because, A, the situation's so great here, but also they felt like they could get an even better scholarship. So, Yeah, it's
I
a
think you spoke
tremendous
to
setup.
earlier. Yeah, you
Yep.
spoke to that earlier about getting better, getting more the second time around.
Yeah.
So has NIL affected the JUCO space, or that's more of a D1 type thing?
I think it's more Division One. I mean,
Okay.
it does creep it. It does allow, like, obviously kids to have things done for them from a financial standpoint. It is some schools across the country in junior college have already started incorporating that, and I think that'll become more and more a part of JUCO basketball moving forward, but not so much now.
Okay. And so if you had to just put your finger on a single thing that athletes, by and large, when they come to the JUCO level, what are they lacking? So if you could talk to the high school athlete and say, maybe if you had done this prior to coming here, right? And I know some of the stuff is just you can't really, it's beyond your control, right? It's just
Yep.
that maybe I had a bad grade or whatever. I was at a low or like a not a high school where I didn't get a bunch of visibility and not on a
Yep.
major AAU team. So, what is something that they can kind of control from a youth or a high school standpoint that if you kind of get these things, and I don't have to put them into you once you get here at this level?
That's a great question, by the way, and it's something that I'm trying to even instill into some of our guys here, because it's the difference between them playing at a Power Five school or not. It's first off is the amount of time that you're putting into your craft. Does that speak to you really wanting to play Division I basketball? Everybody says they want to do it, and you got the quote that everybody talks about. Everybody wants to be great until it's time to do what greatness requires. Like playing Division I basketball, playing 4-year basketball is hard. There's a small percentage of athletes that get a chance to do that. And if I ask your coaches, or if I ask your friends, if I ask your, how much would they say it means to you with the amount of work that you're putting in? And are you, people always take shots of themselves, post it on social media, say, that, hey, I'm grinding or whatever. But are you being intentional with when you go in there? Are you enhancing your strengths? Are you working on your weaknesses? Are you doing those two things? Am I making my strengths better? And am I working on my weaknesses? Are you just going in there and doing the same thing every day and not really, squeezing the most out of your time in the gym? That would be number one. Does my work ethic show that I'm about what I say I'm about? And then two, I think one of the biggest things, if you just listen to coaches, even in broadcast, even as Division I coaches, they talk about in games, during games, or in interviews or whatever. What everybody is looking for is toughness. Everybody's talking about toughness. Everybody talks about, we talk about the toughest team wins. And so, are you a guy that is going to exhibit toughness with the way that you approach, every area in life? Are you a guy that's going to quit at the first, sign of adversity? We even do things here. We call it adversity boot camp, which is something that we do on Fridays. It has no basketball involved in it. Not during the season, but it's off season. And we got it from a little bit of guy, again, up in your way, Shaka Smart, some things that he did when he was at VCU. And it's stuff that I did when we were, at Southwest, and it's things that we still incorporate, here at Eastern Florida. But, it's to instill toughness, because a lot of guys, like, we see social media has a lot of good things, but there's also a thing in social media, the comparison theory, where it looks like everybody's life is great and nobody's experiencing hard times. And like guys are, and we're almost creating like a lot of outs, in my opinion, to like run away from adversity. I think the programs that are winning, that are successful, the guys that are getting recruited, the guys that are successful are the guys that are tough-minded guys that bring an element to toughness. You can overachieve with your athletic ability if you just have the skill of toughness, and you're just a tough-minded guy, and you're just a guy that's going to get in there and you're going to be friction, and you're going to make, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. You're getting in there and you're making your teammates better just because of how tough you are and how you compete. And so I think those two things are things that, like, guys, that if you really want to get to the next level, embrace toughness. And then also, like, is your work, is it reflecting that you really want to do this?
Can you put, is that something that can you put that in an athlete? Is it something that's just native by their DNA, or based off their environment or upbringing? Can you take a individual who maybe not exhibited so much toughness as he came to you and kind of put that in him, so that, right, that he's the guy that you're looking for from a standpoint when you speak of, I need this hard-nosed guy to kind of lead my team?
Yeah, I think it does come. I mean, it is kind of a natural thing. And I do agree with that. Like, it's kind of, sometimes it's naturally in you because you've been through some tough stuff in life, or, your upbringing, or even just the situations that you've kind of played in. And so I think it is kind of a bit the nature. But one thing that, I hold, hope on, I guess I should say, is, so I don't know if you've read the book, Shoe Dog.
Yes, I actually just read it for the second time. I
uh,
read it early on, and then I just read
phenomenal
it.
book.
Phenomenal book. Yeah,
And
really good book.
so, for those that don't know that, it's about Phil Knight and Phil Knight's journey, and Phil Knight is the founder of Nike. But one thing, is his college coach, Bill Bowerman, would talk about. And, Bill Bowerman was the one who, invented the waffle, sole and all that stuff, and kind of went into Nike with Phil Knight. But he wouldn't want to be called a coach. And I don't know if you remember this. You remember what he wanted to be called?
I do
It's a
not.
tough question. It's a tough question, but
Nah,
he wanted to be called a professor of competitive responses.
there you go.
And
Yes.
so he wanted to be someone who taught how to respond, in different in different times of competition. And so I think as a coach, I like that. I hold hope to that, because I want to teach guys how to respond, when adversity hits, how to respond when maybe things aren't going their way, how to respond maybe when things are going their way, and to still exhibit toughness. Like, because John Wooden says, it's a weakness to get caught up in praise or criticism. And so, are you responding the right way, whether things are going bad for you or things are going good for you? And so, I think that's something that we try to instill in our guys is, okay, in the middle of practice, there was a bad call, and we will intentionally call bad calls in practice to teach our guys how to respond to it. Because you see all the time, guys, we call it palms up. Our guys, they do this, like when they foul, like we don't want to do palms up. We want to respond the right way and just say next play. We want to be a teammate that sees a guy responding the wrong way and goes up to him and say, hey man, we're good. We talk about, everybody says when they make a mistake or something, everybody says, that's my bad, or I'm good. No, we teach, it's not I'm good, it's we're good. So like when I make a mistake, hey man, we're good. So we want to teach guys how to respond, because at the end of the day, man, like, this is, I don't do this. There's a lot of things in life that I could be doing to make more money, and to obviously this takes a lot, from a family standpoint. Like, your family makes sacrifices for you to do this. I think my faith is extremely important to me, and so I want to be making a difference outside of just the wins and the losses. And so I understand, I've lived long enough to understand that life isn't perfect. And that life is going to throw you curveballs, and life is going to throw you adversity. And so, in the middle of teaching our guys how to respond to things, from an athletic standpoint, and how to show toughness with our responses, and react to things differently in a more positive manner, we pray that carries on throughout their life, that it's not just something they just apply to basketball, but it's something that they apply to the game of life. Because ultimately, athletics is life's greatest workshop. And so we learned so many things through sports on how to be a better father, how to be a better husband, how to approach things and lead the right way. And so we pray that in the midst of challenging these guys to respond, differently, we pray that that carries on, well after the basketball, stops bouncing.
For sure. All right. So that kind of captures everything. I know I've held you past the
Man, you're
social
good,
range.
man. You can ask me anything you want.
Yeah. No, so that's kind of what I wanted to cover. Is there anything from your standpoint that you just, I know we spoke about the things that will be needed to kind of play at this level. If they got that, where you spoke about toughness and intentional work ethic. Is there anything that you just kind of want to that I didn't maybe go over that you just want to get out to the community?
Um, let's see here. Things that we harp on with our guys is what I'm kind of trying to think about is
Okay.
you know I think one thing with kids in general is don't do anything. And I had a buddy that coached for the Patriots, and one thing they talk about is don't fuel the hype. Um, you know, and I think for a lot of young um, young guys that I see that end up not panning out, or not achieving, people would say like not living up to their potential, or are, kind of fizzling out in one form or fashion. It's either they they had people pump them up too much, and I kind of spoke on the John Wooden quote. The quote is you know don't get caught up in praise or criticism. It's a weakness to get caught up in either one of them. And so I think a lot of guys, a lot of young guys, they come up and people are telling them how good they are. And so what that has a tendency to do is make them think that they've made it, that they've arrived. And so you're
Right.
probably dealing with a lot of that with the middle school. Some of those elite guys are saying, hey man, like this is your path. Like, and so people start jumping in there. And nowadays, like high school kids can get NIL, and you have obviously the OTE and all that, stuff. And these guys are just getting told how good they are. Well, what that has a tendency to do is to say, okay, I've arrived, and so I don't have to work, and I don't have to have that chip on my shoulder anymore. Um, I would encourage guys to never lose their chip. And that's what I tell our guys. I don't care who walks in this. We got a Division I head coach coming here to watch practice today. And no matter what they say, because in recruiting, everybody's going to tell you how, oh man, like you're really good at this. And we can see you being a really, good, you're going to change our team because of you doing this at a high level. Man, don't lose your chip. Like you got to, the Navy SEALs have a quote that says you got to earn your trident today. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. It doesn't matter what anybody else is saying to you. Don't do something that fuels the hype. Don't believe the hype. Like you gotta be about it today. You gotta be your very best in the moment. Be where your feet are, and never lose your chip. Just continue to work. Never be satisfied, because I think those guys that I've seen that have kind of gone under the radar, whether I was at Ole Miss or Vanderbilt or wherever, or even in those leagues that I was in, that they just climb up the draft boards, or, in junior college, the ones that weren't recruited at all in four-year schools, they come here and all of a sudden, they're at UNLV, and you're like, where in the world did this guy come from? He didn't have a Division I scholarship, 365 days ago. And now he's a starting point guard at UNLV. Like, I think it's because those guys, no matter how people tell them how good they are, or no matter if people tell them they're not good enough, they don't believe that. They got that chip, and they're just going to work and work and work. And they're not going to get caught up in criticism. They're not going to get caught up in praise. They're going to be about, they know in their mind, that's where I think that toughness comes into play, that mental toughness. It is, what? I believe I can do this. My work is going to show my belief. My work is going to show that I really believe that I'm about what I say I'm about. And so, that's just what I would encourage, guys, young guys especially, is you're going to have people pat you on the back, but don't let that change who you are. Like however hard you work to get there, work that much harder. When you're on top of your game, change your game, continue to develop your game. And I think that's something that I would encourage. Like if you come JUCO, or if you go to a Division I school, man, don't stop because you got a college scholarship. Use the opportunities that you're given in whatever, college basketball or even high school, whatever, use those opportunities to open doors to the next one. And I think that's probably the best advice I could give, anyone.
And how many, you mentioned you have a Division I coach in the gym today. So how often, like if you would say 50% of the time, 60, 70, 80, how often do you have like Division I coaches in the gym as you guys are practicing?
So we try to, obviously not, I shouldn't say limit, but like have them come certain days.
Okay.
If it's like a large crowd, in the preseason, like once like September hits and they can come out, like I would say it's every other, if not every day, that a Division I coach is in the gym. I think now, like with the start of season, I think it's every week, we'll have,
Okay.
one or two come in. We've been on the road a lot lately, but we've been, I mean, we're fortunate, like I mentioned, the guy who worked here, was a head coach here previously, has built this program up to what it is. I can't take any credit for that. And so Eastern Florida definitely has a track record, and we're trying to hold that standard to the same, and live up to that standard, so to speak, and getting guys to that next level. So I would say, nowadays in season, probably once or twice a week.
Okay.
But we're only practicing probably, 4 times because we typically have 2 to 3 games.
All right. So help me understand, because I have something coming out in regards to um, the offers, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And you've been at both levels. So as I understand it, you can't commit really. I can get an offer when I'm ninth grade, 10th grade, but you truly can't commit and to kind of be accepted and you sign on dotted line where now I'm locked in until like April of your senior year or somewhere towards that senior, somewhere in that senior
Yep, yep.
deal.
Yeah, so like it's a signing period. So there's a November signing period, an April signing period, which I think there's legislation that may change in the NCAA next fall. So that may just be, there was just a signing period a couple of weeks ago. Now you can just commit. You can just say, hey, I'm going, and then that signing period opens up again in April. And so that's when you can sign, obviously, your senior year of high school, but also you can commit, anytime from now until the signing period. But you can't actually sign the scholarship. That window has closed already in November, and it opens up in April, and then it just goes beyond.
And with the legislation, the one in November, most like because NLIs are going away, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
so
supposedly, yep.
would that one also go away? It's really just the April signing period where I'm going to sign my scholarship
I think
documentation.
now I'm not, because this is all changing since I've been out of Division I. I've talked to a few, but it really doesn't. It would just impact our guys in terms of when they would sign. So, and
Okay.
I try not to get too caught up into it until it actually goes into effect. But yes, I think it may open up to where you can sign that. It would be a grant and aid or something along that line, to where you can sign it throughout. Like once it opens, it kind of opens, and then you can kind of sign whenever. Now I
Okay.
don't know when that would open, or if they would just wait until, hey, the April window, and it just opens and everybody could sign then. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. I kind of get where they're going with it with all the NIL stuff, but
Right.
so it'll be interesting how it all plays out.
All right. Well, perfect, Coach. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me and kind of giving me the time.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I hope it was what
no,
what
it
you.
was perfect. No, it was perfect. But yeah, so good luck on the season.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and we wish you guys. I'll be watching you guys, and hopefully you bring home that national championship.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you.